Hi, Kevin. It's Kate
Hey, how's it
O'Hare.
going?
I'm pretty good in yourself.
I'm doing good, thanks.
So we're almost to 0 hour. Are you excited?
Always excited. Yeah, I am excited. I'm excited for audiences to see this one. So, um, very, very curious. I'm not curious because we do test screenings, but still curious.
What was, if there was something you'd be willing to share that you heard more than once from a test screening of the best Christmas pageant ever, what would that be?
I think audiences were surprised at how emotional the story is. That is definitely a common thread that they like surprised in a good way, obviously, that how emotional the story turned out to be. So not just the laughs. I think people expect the laughs, like that's kind of a given. But to have the emotional punch that brings them to tears was not expected. So that's a good thing. I'm like, okay, I love it. Love it.
Now, I know that this is a book that Dallas loved,
Yeah.
and a lot of people do, but I had never heard of it. So, what
Well,
is your pitch for this?
yeah,
I
actually,
don't think
it
I'm alone, but what's your pitch for this for people who don't come with a sense of nostalgia about the
yeah.
story?
What's funny is the story premiered in a 1972 edition of McCall's magazine.
And it was also a TV movie previously, I think with
And
Loretta
then it was,
Swit from
yep,
MASH.
yeah. And then
Yep.
once it became a book, then it was like a TV movie with Laura Swit, and then it became a stage play, which was very. It has been a stage. I don't know the numbers of the stage play, but it's very significant the amount of times it's been converted into a stage play. And then, you know, what we've discovered is a lot of families are very familiar with the book. I can tell you that mine is. Mine, like Dallas's, uh, would read it every year. More specifically, my wife made it a part of the curriculum of our homeschooling, our kids in elementary school. And so when they heard Dad was going to make this into a movie, they thought I was joking because they thought there's no way Dad can make something that big into a movie. Love that. But I'm very curious to see. I mean, we have the data on the stats, but like, do the stats translate into how many really, really are significant fans of the book? I do think that the movie itself elevates the book, which is very hard to do. Really hard to do, especially with a book like this. It's not like a huge novel. There's not a lot of words in it. And so to be able to figure that out in a way that just brings something special to the material. The Barbara Robinson's daughter, when she saw the movie, her comment was, My mom is smiling so happy right now from the bench. I mean, she would be so proud of this. And so obviously that is our goal, whether we're making true stories or a novel, that those responsible for the original material would be just pleased as punch. But I think we got this here with Christmas Pageant.
Well, coming at this cold, I thought this isn't the most flattering portrayal of this congregation or these church ladies.
That's funny. Yeah, that's definitely true to the book, though. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it's funny. If you take it cold without really any reference, might be confusing a little bit. But I do love the way Dallas chose specifically. Obviously, we helped him pull it off. How timeless it was. I mean,
Mhm.
you'll see that there's no digital gadgetry in the film. There's no cell phones. Our cars we made to be somewhat specific. Obviously, you're going to date a time period, but there's a little bit of
1970s-ish.
yeah, there's some 70s and 80s, and you kind of don't know. I mean, but it just feels very timeless. The production design, the colors are um, there's a lot of solids, I would say, in the colors, right? So it's on purpose to really not give away a certain time, a time era, so that people can really just get lost in the story.
And at one point, it's also like, how does the Christmas story fall on people who've never heard it before? So at one point, a character
Sure.
hearing the story goes, well, what about child welfare? And I spent the rest of the movie going, why doesn't anybody call it for the Herdmans who don't have parents and seem hungry?
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it's a good question. I mean, we actually paid so much attention to that in the movie itself, with whether it's little voiceover, not voiceover, but off camera, voice re-recording of some dialogue and whatnot, because we wanted audiences to know they're not abandoned. I mean, these are not abandoned kids, but they're kids where the parents aren't home all the time. The dad probably gone, but the mom not home all the time. And for me, growing up, I could relate. I grew up as a latchkey kid in the '80s and the '70s, and so that whole concept of hey, my parents work really hard so I can have a house is not lost on me. I don't have six brothers and sisters or whatever, but there is some element of relatability, I think, with the Herdmans, no matter what, even if you don't do some of the bad things that they do. Just the fact that I've heard a lot of people say it's all about the ham, and it is all about the ham. I mean, for me, it's all about the ham, and that scene, not only does it shine a light on what Bob and Grace do, but it also shines a light on how hard these kids, I would say, work in order to have the life that they have, and it makes you appreciate them all the more. And so that was a scene that, again, we took so much care. It may seem so simple, but we took so much care to be able to translate, communicate the visual imagery as well as the verbal communication that we were going to relay to audiences.
One thing that struck me is I write primarily for the Catholic audience. And, we love Mary. We're very fond of Mary. And I kept thinking, like, this is a very merry Christmas, in the way that Imogen
That's
relate.
funny.
Yeah, that may be my title.
Sure.
In the way that Imogen keys into that Madonna and child picture, and the way that she keys into the character of Mary and the real, perilous and difficult situation Mary was in. I'm not a huge fan of overly pious images of Mary. You see a lot of them. I like to
Yeah.
think like, wow, this girl, she faced a lot and
Yeah.
she held strong. So, what was sort of your thought in making that the way that Imogen relates to Mary very
Yeah, I
clear?
mean, yeah, from that standpoint, we really wanted to stay true to the book, and we did. It's the 75th annual Emmanuel Christmas pageant, Emmanuel Church Christmas pageant. And so, we didn't want to get it into a modern day, kind of modern day evangelical. We didn't want to change what it was from the book. We wanted to really make it timeless and accessible to all
Yeah, there's no
audiences.
worship band.
There's no worship band.
There's
Yeah,
no
no, no,
worship band.
no, no,
There's
no,
no
no,
light
no,
show.
no. Yeah, no. It's a very, as you can see, it's somewhat of a traditional church,
Yeah.
but it's not overtly traditional that you don't see contemporary people attending it, right? And so there's a little bit of a balance there, which I think was done, and even in the location scouting while we were trying to find a church home for this, we were very intentional in trying to pick the location that would match that. But thanks for noticing.
Where did you find the Madonna image? The Madonna and child image that Imogen keys into and becomes very important to her.
Yeah, very, really, really good art department. Our props department and our production designer found it, and just Dallas loved it and I loved it, and I'm like, yeah, it's really, really strong. So again, just in staying true to what the book and the story within the book was, we wanted, the props. One of my favorite is, and you won't, I don't know if you'll see this in a Catholic church or not, just in the Sunday school class, you see the God with us sort of painting. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
our art department painted that I'm like, look at that! That's incredible. You don't see that in movies, and of course, that is in a lot of the movie because we see, the Sunday school class in the beginning, middle, and end, and so just little things like that where you're just, this is a church that, despite their flaws, really does believe in God and really wants people. Um, we've had people ask us that, like, "Oh my goodness, how can they all of a sudden forgive so easily when they see what the true meaning of Christmas is all about?" And I said, "Well, that's exactly what the gospel does, and it takes flawed and imperfect people. That's what Jesus's birth was all about." And so I love just those questions to be able to answer them in a way that kind of makes sense for people.
Well, like I mentioned, a lot of this is we're so soaked in the Christmas story and in all the interpretations of the Christmas story and all the little nativity scenes and this and that and the other thing that you lose your ability to remember what this story sounds like to
Yeah,
somebody who's never heard it before.
that's right.
And I absolutely love that because they asked some really legitimate questions
They do.
and had
Yeah.
some legitimate reactions. So was it fun, like having some fun
Oh,
with that? And did it get you to
yeah.
think about how do I view the Christmas story through the layers of everything on top of
Oh,
it?
100%. I mean, honestly, my favorite sequence in the film is the rehearsals. And really starting back from when they start reading the Christmas story for the first time in the library, all the way through the rehearsals, because I'm just so in awe. This is me now, not as the producer, but me as just a moviegoer. When I watch it, I'll pick things up just in certain cutaways or whatnot in that stretch of the movie for the first time because of the earnestness of these kids, really asking these questions that are very honest and really just like matter of fact, like, but why? Like, even sometimes if they get the answer, they just don't understand. But why? And it does make you kind of go, huh? I never thought of it that way. And so I never get sick of those moments in the film, even though
There
I've
was,
watched this thing a lot.
I'm sure this is from the book, and it's a big contemporary sentiment. Here they are, they're penniless refugees. I'm like, no, no. I'm sure they had money. They're in an overcrowded town that's out of accommodations.
Yeah, yeah,
Which happens to a lot of people who have to go to
sure.
somewhere where everybody's going. All you don't need to be a penniless refugee to understand that there is no room at the inn,
There's
or
no
that
room
one
at the
down the
end.
street, or the other one down the street.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, sometimes one of the things I love is just the fact that, and you see this kind of revisited at the end, just something as simple as inviting someone to an event, in this instance, inviting someone to a church event. And I love where, little Beth decides to invite Imogene again. I guess you're not going to come back, right? But will you? Oh my gosh, I love that. The way the little actresses pulled it off, I was
Well,
just like, oh my gosh.
in a way, at some point in our lives, we're all the innkeeper who,
Yeah.
if he had opened his dang door and moved some people around and made some room, would have had for himself and everyone in the inn a rather amazing Christmas Eve. But oh well, he missed it.
Yeah. That's true. That's funny.
It happened down at the barn,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's
he
right. That's
missed
right.
out on the whole experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, what is the thing you want people to most take away, whether they're familiar with the, obviously, they got nostalgia and warm fuzzies and everything, but whether they're familiar with the book or they're not, they're just coming at this as a new Christmas story to them.
Yeah, look, first and foremost, we want people to be entertained. If they're going to buy a ticket to go see one of our movies in the theater, we do want people to be entertained. The second thing is our films that we make at Kingdom Story Company. There's a common thread, which is really taking either true life or books and showcasing what the power of the gospel can be like in people's lives. And so our hope is that it spawns uh, conversation that's never happened before. And so, whether that's conversation around the nativity story, or conversation around community events, or conversation around things that you thought were true, but you didn't realize were that way. And these little herdman kids might have just made you happen to ask a question that you never thought possible. I think those are good. And the conversations within the home, like whether they be within your family, because the movie's accessible to kids. I think kids are going to ask questions coming out of this film because, they're young
What
kids
about
that are.
Herod?
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, what about here? There's
Tell me
gonna be
more.
one of my favorites, which I think is in one of the trailers. There will be no more talking of blood today, or whatever she says in the rehearsals. It's oh man, they're just so disappointed by
Well, there are
it.
so many Christmas movies out these days,
Yeah,
and 99% of them have nothing to do with the Christmas story.
that's right. Right.
Yeah. And it's become a rare thing to have a Christmas film that actually has anything to do with anything beyond just cocoa, romance, and ugly sweaters.
That, that's
So
true.
you're in a remarkably unpopulated niche.
I know. I know.
Or
I'm
no
sure.
Santa Claus either, not a single Santa Claus. And as a
I
Rudolph
know.
fan growing up, I was never a fan of Santa Claus. So that I'm
Yeah.
fine with no Santa Claus because he's kind of a stinker in Rudolph. Um, so landing that way, you're actually a Christmas movie about Christmas, but it's also fun.
Yeah.
And you don't see that. A Christmas movie about Christmas. And I think since The Star, the animated film, I don't think we've seen this.
I don't think so either. Hopefully, people don't watch this and go, "Wait a minute, that's not what Christmas is about. Christmas is about Santa Claus and ugly sweaters and
And
cookies."
Elf on the
And
Shelf and
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, yeah. Again, it's putting the true meaning of Christmas for front and center, and that's obviously one of the hopes in this is that we know people are going to watch the Christmas story, the Nativity story for the very first time
Mm-hmm.
and have questions about it, and may they understand, even whether adult or kid, uh, the true meaning of Christmas in a way they've never experienced before.
Because I had a little fit on X the other day. I'm like, if I see one more movie that says if Santa Claus doesn't deliver the presents, there will be no Christmas, I'm going to scream. It's so tired at this point.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
tired. Like, stop.
that's true.
With the exception of Christmas Chronicles, just because I love Kurt Russell. So, like, what are your go to Christmas films?
Well, a good friend of mine produced Elf, so because of that, I like that
Well,
film. But
everybody loves Elf.
everybody loves Elf. Outside of Elf, Miracle on 34th Street, and that's probably
It's a
it.
Santa Claus movie.
Right, yeah, sure, right. But I hope this one becomes one of those. I hope it does for my family, not because Dad made it, but because they just really love it. And certainly it's one of the reasons why we decided to do the film is to try and see if we could pull off the impossible Christmas classic that people just want to come back to every year before they embark into the Christmas season, or maybe they watch it together as a family for the first time, or not the first time, but um, every year on Christmas or Christmas Eve, where they
Yeah.
just create their own new tradition, right? So that would be cool. That to be a part of something like that would be, you could say, okay, it was absolutely worth it.
I also appreciate that it was obviously shot in the dead of winter, unlike the majority of cable Christmas films, which are shot in July. And
And
they
that dead of
just
winter,
spray some fake snow up the side of a tree and
our
wet down the
coldest
sidewalks.
our coldest day was minus 40 degrees. And
Ow.
it was so cold. Yeah, so people can't accuse us from going away from the cold, the true temperature of Christmas. It was so cold. Oh my goodness.
So why
Never,
did you shoot it in the dead of winter since the majority of it takes place indoors? So you probably could have cheated, but why didn't you cheat?
yeah, we thought about it. We thought, hey, should we shoot this in Texas, which is closer to where Dallas lives? It would have been more convenient for him. But I lobbied him for Winnipeg, which is literally the coldest place on earth.
I was like, you didn't even
dude,
pick Whistler or
I-
somewhere. You didn't even pick Vancouver. You went to
yeah.
Winnipeg.
I shot a movie called Ordinary Angels the year before in
Yeah, didn't
Winnipeg.
you
Had
learn
such a
your
great
lesson from
experience with the
that?
crew up there.
I heard about the snow in that movie. I
Apparently not.
appreciated the
I know.
snow in that movie. I wrote
Yeah,
about that I
I know. I
appreciated the
know.
snow in that
Yeah,
movie,
no.
but man, didn't you learn?
I literally left going, I will never shoot another movie in this town again. And 12 months later, I was back. So, no, the crews were so good. And I just pitched Dallas hard on it. And he goes, oh, look, I'll go up there and scout. And as soon as he took one trip up there, he fell in love with it. And it was over at that point. So, and we got a great film. Just really tried to use as many locals as possible to really pour back into that community because they have such a really robust film community and a lot of cast. Believe it or not, a lot of our cast are Canadians. Not that we didn't audition in the States because we did, but they really earned it, and I thought that
They
was
have a
cool.
repertory company up there in the
Yeah,
Canadas. They do.
yeah. No,
So,
very, very, very talented, and so yeah, they earned it. So really happy for them.
will you be having ham this Christmas?
Oh, well, I hope so. A ham or prime rib are my go-to.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. And in
Yeah, thank you.
advance, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye
again.
bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.